Welcome to the Dream Power Show, where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Welcome to the Dream Power Show. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, the Dream Coach. As all of you who've been watching this show know, there are many methods and techniques we can use to help transform our lives. But can these also be used to transform our businesses? My guest today, John Murphy, believes so. John is a leading business consultant who has helped revolutionize the workings of some of the world's most famous companies. He's trained thousands of people in operational excellence and organizational development. John has also written 20 books and dozens of articles. We're going to be speaking with him now about his new book, Miracle Minded Manager. John, welcome to the Dream Power Show.
Debbie, it's so good to be here.
Okay, John, your book, you take the principles of the Course of Miracles and apply them to the business world. For those who are unfamiliar with it, could you explain what the Course of Miracles is and how you discovered it?
I'd love to, Debbie. Yeah, I discovered it basically because a lot of the people I was reading, this is 10, 15, even 20 years ago, people like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle and even Marianne Williamson. I was intrigued. Dr. David Hawkins was probably the biggest influence on me, the late David Hawkins. And they all were referencing this A Course in Miracles, ACIM. And I was curious, like, what is that? I didn't know. So one day I came home from a long road trip, and there in a big stack of mail was an invitation to take A Course in Miracles. So I thought, well, that's no coincidence. So I investigated in it further and discovered that it was actually a channeling in the 1970s by a woman named Dr. Helen Schuckman. Helen was a professor of psychology, medical psychology at Columbia University at the time, and essentially she started to hear this voice. It was a channeling, if you will, and with the help of a colleague, Dr. Bill Thetford, the two of them over a 7-year period put these teachings, these channelings into words, which became a book, a textbook, and also a teacher's manual. And the workbook is 365 lessons over the course of a year, one lesson per day. And it's essentially believed to be by millions of people today, a direct channeling of Jesus. And I found it truly intriguing. So I enrolled, I took the course, and it's something you can take it online on YouTube for free. It's well known around the world, and it had a profound impact on my life. And all of a sudden I could really see where some of the teachings of Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra, people like that, Wayne Dyer, were coming from. And so I began to practice it. It just became part of my life, and I began to practice it in my consulting practice. I integrated it into everything. That's how it works, into my role as a father, as a husband, as a brother, as a son. And it just then came to me years later to integrate it into a business story. So how would an executive or a manager apply some of these teachings in the business world today? Because it's essentially a teaching about how to transcend the ego thought system, that fear-based, dualistic, human nature thought system that we all know, to a very deep, spiritual, awakened perspective, where you're not afraid, you're not stressed out, you're not anxious. You embrace the holy instant, the eternal now as you go through the day. And it had, like I said, a profound effect on me. So when I learned about it and began to integrate it into my practice, it had an incredibly positive impact on my performance as a consultant, and the impact I had with my clients in multiple countries around the world. And in the workshops I was teaching, and in the events, the process improvement events that I was facilitating, and the speeches that I was giving, everything, and my writing. So I began to incorporate it into my writing. So the Miracle Minded Manager, my latest work, is directly integrates it into the life. It's a story. It's actually a sequel to a book I wrote 25 years ago. And the book 25 years ago, which got wonderful endorsements from military generals and best-selling authors, Ken Blanchard, for example, the 1-Minute Manager, and Rich DeVos, the co-founder of Amway, and a very successful businessman and philanthropist and people like that. That was the book called Agent of Change, and it was a story about a man who sought the help of a consultant to help him change his corporate culture, which is something I've been doing for 31 years now as a consultant. But this sequel to that book, it's not a 25-year sequel, it's a 3-year period from story to story. But now this man that's struggling, his name's Jack McDonald, he comes back to the same consultant and he says, you know what, you helped me change my corporate culture and I've been very successful as a result of that. He's been promoted, in fact. Now can you help me change me? Can you help me get over the stress that I'm feeling and some of the emotional weight that I feel and some of the conflict that I have in my life? He's got conflict with his father and with his brother, and some of these very common things that we all experience or know somebody who is experiencing, even health issues. So the Miracle-Minded Manager is a sequel to this book I wrote a long time ago. It's a touching story. It's actually also a tribute to women, because what you learn in the story is that there are some very wise and sage women behind the men characters, and it's truly a tribute to women as well.
Oh, isn't that always the truth? Uh, there's so much that you just said that I just want to take a little bit of time to unpack it all. And first thing I want to say is that I was really struck by the fact that you did write it in the form of a story, and I thought it made the principles that you were talking about in the book a lot easier to understand. Is that why you wrote it as a story?
I did, because the book is in no way any kind of a competition with a book that's already written, which is A Course in Miracles. You don't need another book on that. The original book is a masterpiece. So, but what people struggle with is, how do I learn from that original text and the original workbook? How do I integrate that into a very common life challenging situation? So the idea was not to compete in any way with A Course in Miracles, but to complement it, to say, look, here's an example, an illustration, an opportunity for you, the reader, to listen in and observe and witness a person going through this transformation and struggling with it. It can be a struggle for people, because it really requires that we let go of the ego, of this fear-based dualistic way that we're trained to think: right, wrong, good, bad, us, them, win, lose. Everything is about duality. So when we transcend that to the point where we're all connected, we're not separate beings, we're all connected in an energetic way. And it's about true forgiveness. For example, the ego sees forgiveness as, I was right, you were wrong, but I forgive you. That's really just another form of condemnation. True forgiveness is like, it's like it never happened. Okay, it's a true forgiveness. And I think one of the most important things for people to learn and to embrace is that in forgiving others, we're forgiving ourselves. We're setting ourselves free. That's one of the major themes and lessons in A Course in Miracles. The ego has a different definition for love, too. The ego's definition of love is that it's something we fall in and out of. It's something we give and take away. There's a duality to it. A Course in Miracles says there's no duality to love. Love is eternal. Love is sacred. It's where we came from. It's a form of energy. It's what gives us life. It's the only thing that really matters, is that connectedness that we all have. And it isn't something we give and take away. It's totally unconditional. It's totally forgiving. And when we actually embrace that, whether it's in business or it's at home, it's the family, it's in school, wherever it is we are, and we embrace true forgiveness, and we learn to get in spirit, which means fearless. The spirit is no fear. When we're inspired and in spirit, wow, life takes on a whole new meaning. And it's extremely powerful then in working with others, because they feel it. It's an energy. It's like that person that lights up the room. It's a feeling. Wow, there's just something different about this consultant or this teacher, this professor, this person. And it's that inspiration, that heartfelt passion, that compassion that we just embody and carry with us everywhere we go.
Yeah, that is so, so true. I tell you, one of the main things that you talk about in this book is also stress. And what I found interesting was that you didn't talk about reducing stress, which is what most people talk about, but you talked about eliminating it altogether. So how do you eliminate stress?
Get to the root cause. And I like to remind people that it doesn't do a whole lot of good in the long run to solve problems inside a box when it's the box that's the problem. It doesn't do us a whole lot of good to manage stress when we can eliminate it. We can delete it. But to delete it and eliminate it rather than manage it, think about all the strategies we have to manage stress. Go to the gym, get on the treadmill, take a yoga class, learn to meditate, and even, or go get yourself a beer or a glass of wine or something like that, decompress a little bit. We have all these management strategies, but very little about deletion. But to delete a problem, you have to get to the root cause. So to eliminate a headache from coming back over and over and over again, you can't just take an aspirin every day, and by the way, a lot of that leads to side effects. And so solving one problem to create three more isn't exactly intelligent. This is what I teach my clients. So how do we delete it? And the answer is we have to get to the root cause of it. And the root cause of stress is the ego thought system, the ego box. It's looking at things from a fear-based perspective. So whenever we're looking at something from a fear-based perspective, we're always worried about what could go wrong. And stress comes from a projection of the mind that something might go wrong. Oh, I'm nervous about this exam I have to take because I might get a bad grade or get something wrong. I'm nervous about this speech I have to give because I might get up there and freak out or say something stupid. I'm worried about injuring myself. I'm worried about getting sick, or if I am sick, I'm worried about getting sicker or even dying. These are all projections of the mind that something negative is going to happen. And Debbie, we live in a world where we're surrounded by negativity. It's on the news, all the things going wrong, the threats, the worries. It's flu season. Oh, get your flu shot, and stock up on medication. And oh, you have to travel, you have to get on an airplane. Well, be careful because you're probably going to get sick. So we have these expectations that things are going to go wrong. And it's that image in the mind, that idea, that vision, that dream, in this case, a bad dream, that something's going to happen negatively. And it makes us anxious. It makes us stressed. And I like to remind people that we're never stressed by another person. We're stressed about what we think of that other person. We're never stressed because of a situation. We're stressed because of what we're thinking about that situation. Whether it's a traffic jam that we're sitting in, or a slow computer, it's like, come on, or this person that's down the hall from me who's annoying, or but it's all in the mind. And so when we start to realize that stress is not coming at us, it's not something we have no control over, it's happening to us. Once we realize, no, it's actually coming from us. And that's mindfulness. And that's training of the mind. And this is exactly what Jack learns in the story, Miracle Minded Manager. He's trying to manage it like everybody else in the world. And the consultant that he meets, he says, you're trying to manage something that you should just eliminate from your life. And let me teach you how to do that. And that's what the book teaches. It's what A Course in Miracles teaches us, that we're never upset for the reasons we think we are. That's one of the daily mantras. We're upset because we see something that is not there. That's another one of the daily mantras. So it's all about what we see in the mind. It really boils down to perception, how we see ourselves and how we see the world around us and how we see ourselves in that world, and our relationships and everything else, our careers. It's all about what we think in the mind. So you want to change your life, you really want to experience more miracles in life, wake up and examine how you're looking at things. A shift at that level changes everything.
John, as someone who understands dreams, I'm tuned into understanding the difference between our conscious self and our subconscious mind, which is where our dreams lie. This is something that you also touch on. Why is this important to you?
It's very important to distinguish between what we hold in the conscious mind, the present, the will. This is what I will do. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind, which is a lot like the programming essentially that we run on the autopilot, which governs over 95% of our daily lives, according to a lot of research, including the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton. The conscious mind, which is capable of processing 40 bits of data, 40 bits of data per second, is nowhere close to the power, if you will, of the subconscious mind, which can process 40 million bits of data per second. So just knowing the difference is step number one. Because it's the conscious mind that says things like, I will change this habit. I will stop doing this. I will start doing that. I will make this New Year's resolution. And if the subconscious mind doesn't believe that, which is often the case, like I will, lose 10 pounds, and the subconscious mind is basically going, yeah, right, you tried that last year. That's where the real problem is. That's why people have, one of the books I wrote is called Habits Die Hard. That's one of the reasons they struggle, is because they're with the will, that tiny conscious mind, if you will, trying to make a change when the subconscious programming is saying that's never going to happen. So we have to get to the programming. It's just like having a virus on your computer. If you don't get the virus out of your computer, it's just not going to perform at an optimal level. It might not even work at all in some cases. So we've got to get into that subconscious mind and delete a lot of the faulty programs we're running on, which translates into limiting beliefs. It translates into phobias and memes and fears that we have that we don't even know where they came from. So knowing the difference between the conscious and the subconscious mind is critical for positive habit change. The other thing that's really important to keep in mind too is that the conscious mind is rarely present for very long. I've even seen studies where it's not present for more than 11 seconds at a time, and then the conscious mind's jumping off into all the things I have to do tomorrow or next week, or I'm really looking forward to something a year from now, or I'm still upset about something somebody said to me yesterday or a week ago or 10 years ago. Conscious mind, while it's not present, which is most of the time, who's running our lives? And the answer is the subconscious mind. So we have to, a couple of things we have to learn to do here. One, train the conscious mind to be more present, to be more in the now. And that's where things like meditation and mindfulness training can be very helpful. But we also have to know that in addition to that, we really have to uncover what's going on in the subconscious mind, the autopilot that we run on, these tendencies and habits that we have that we don't even know exactly where they came from in some cases. And then we have to figure out how to eliminate, delete some of those patterns, those those thought patterns that run most of our lives. And that's where the real power is. It's in letting go of subconscious beliefs that are limiting and disempowering.
The book just does take us through the story of Jack's life, through his company and through his personal life. And there's some methods that he uses that I wasn't familiar with and I found interesting, and I thought applied not only to business but also to our personal life. So I want to ask you, what are the 5 whys?
It's essentially asking why 5 levels deep on any problem that you might have. And it's because when you get down to that 4th and 5th level of why that the lights really go on. Otherwise, you're still up circling around symptoms. So an example of that would be somebody with recurring headaches. Well, why do you have a recurring headache? That's one level of why. And it's the answer is typically you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain, and it's suffering in a way. Okay, so well, why am I not getting enough oxygen to my brain? That's a 2nd level of why. And the answer is inflammation. You've got poor circulation in your neck and inflammation, and the blood's just not flowing as well as it could, which delivers the oxygen to your brain. Oh, now at that 2nd level of why, we might just say, well, here, take a pill. Take an ibuprofen or an aspirin or an anti-inflammatory or something like that. And the headache will go away, but only temporarily. That's really no solution. And in fact, in a lot of cases, we're solving one problem and creating 1 or 2 more. Okay, we take this stuff long enough, now maybe our liver starts to fail or something. So that's those side effects, that's not intelligent. So 5 levels of why would take us down to, well, why do you have inflammation in your neck? What's that all about? Poor circulation. In this case, and this is an actual case, the answer is because you're favoring one side as you go through the day. You're favoring one side of your body. Oh, I didn't even realize I was doing that. So let's ask another, the third level. Why am I favoring one side? The answer is your hips are out of alignment. My hips are out of alignment. Yeah, I never would have put that together. A lot of people don't even realize that, they have one leg is a little bit longer than another. Their hips are out of alignment. So now you could ask the 5th level of why and say, well, why are your hips out of alignment? That might say, well, because you were in an accident when you were a kid, or you just been, poor posture sitting in a chair, or, any number of things. But at the 4th or 5th level of why, now we discover that maybe the solution to this problem is not it's going to a pharmacy, it's going to a chiropractor, getting your hips readjusted, getting your spine readjusted. Oh, now the headaches have gone away and they don't keep coming back, so I don't need the aspirin. That's intelligent problem solving. It's creative problem solving. It's rational problem solving. This is what I do as a business consultant. I go into organizations. A headache could be just a metaphor for a lot of phone calls are coming in every day to our customer service department. By the way, you read this in the book, Miracle Minded Manager. We're getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of headaches. Why? And it could be that there's something going on elsewhere in the organization, elsewhere in the body, the hips. Maybe hips is an engineering flaw. And so whatever it is we're selling has got a flaw, and that's why people keep calling in. So we need to get to that level to where we can really solve the problem in a sustainable way, a truly transformational way, and not just some transactional thing. I also give the example real quick of automobile lights. Why wouldn't your car start? The battery was dead. Why was the battery dead? Somebody left the lights on. Why'd somebody leave the lights on? There was nothing there to remind them, and they're human. We forget things from time to time. Well, why did we forget? Because there was nothing to remind us. Now you've got cars these days where the lights just turn off automatically. Don't worry about it. I got this. That's an example of an engineering design to what they call in Japan poka yoke, or mistake proof a common error. And if you look around, we have poka yokes all around us today. If you don't get your credit card number in there right, you can't pass go. All right, it's poka yoke. It's all over. Toilets that flush all by themselves. There you go.
How can people find out more about you and your work?
It's my website, johnjmurphy.org. So www.johnjmurphy.org. And from there, you can find my Twitter account, which is Sage Leader. You can find my YouTube channel. I've got a couple hundred free videos, short clips, self-help type clips. You can find my Facebook and LinkedIn sites. So from there, you can find me easily, or you can just Google me or Google Miracle Minded Manager. Pops right up, and it's such a wonderful, heartwarming story loaded with such rich tools and methodologies that we can use, a couple of which we've talked about today. And I urge people to connect with me. I love connecting with people around the world and doing what I can to help.
We've been speaking with business consultant John Murphy about the Miracle Minded Manager. We'll be right back with our next guest. Our dreams can take us into so many different directions, including blazing our own path in the business world. In other words, becoming an entrepreneur. The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as someone who organizes a business and takes on greater than normal financial risks to do so. I think this defines my guest, Camille Leon, who, having nothing more than an idea, created the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. Not only an organization full of entrepreneurs, but a movement with national and international chapters. She's also the author of several books, including False Starts, The Misadventures of Transformation, and is a noted coach and speaker. So with that, I'd like to welcome Camille Leon.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much. That's it's always fun to hear how people frame who we are and what we do, and blessings, because that was a brilliant frame.
Well, I hope I did you justice. But Camille, you know, you did something pretty remarkable. You took an old institution, the Chamber of Commerce, and stood it on its head. For those who may not be familiar with it, could you explain what the Holistic Chamber of Commerce is?
Sure. We are a network of members who take a holistic approach to health, wellness, life, and business, as well as a network of chapters for live local meetings to, create a support system for ourselves.
So,
and to expand our reach.
how did you come up with this idea?
It was actually a gift. A medical intuitive came to me and asked for help starting a local only holistic chamber of commerce. We did that for about a year, and I was interested in expanding it into an international network, and he had other priorities on his plate. So we went different directions, and 9 years later, here we are.
And it is something, because I met you when you were just starting out, and I think there were at that point just 3 chapters in the Los Angeles area, and now it's expanded, nationwide, internationally. How were you able to convince others that this was a good idea and that they should come aboard?
I have no. I was about to say I have no idea. I think that it's an idea that attracts others. I think there are a lot of holistic professionals out there that feel a little overwhelmed, right? You're an expert in dreams and dream interpretation. That's different than being an expert at building a business. But if you want to be successful as one, then you also need to be able to build the business. And so I think once I really got a grip on that we just started attracting more and more people that wanted to be a part of it.
I tell you, this is so true, because having your own business, starting one like mine or like so many other people, you're really not, like, you feel alone a lot of the times. And that's why one of the great things about this organization is that you get to feel that there are others in it with you.
It's overwhelming, the amount of things we have to do as entrepreneurs, and also the amount of input and advice we get. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. Oh, have you done this yet? Which, by the way, let me just say, you don't have to do it all. But certainly for people who are working out of a home office, or are doing something that's a little bit different than everybody else they know, you end up really feeling like you need and want a support system of people who get what you're doing.
Well, this is certainly something that the Holistic Chamber of Commerce does. Can you explain some of the services that it provides?
Sure. So one of the things we do is we have a website that makes it easier for mainstream consumers who maybe have never tried chiropractic or acupuncture or essential oils, or who have started having dreams but aren't quite sure what to do with their dreams, right? So we help them find holistic professionals who can help them with whatever personal transformation item has come up for them. And then for our members, we're providing business discounts and also a support system for, I call it business building brainstorming. It's not just one answer, it's giving you a few options so you can figure out which solution is going to be best for you.
it's often very hard for somebody who has an idea to start a business to really know all the things about running a business. You're an expert in what you do. For instance, a chiropractor is very good at being a chiropractor, but may not know the basics of setting up an office or promoting themselves. And these are some of the things that the Holistic Chamber of Commerce can provide, isn't it?
It's also, do I need a website? Which social media should I be on? Do I really need to be on all of them? The answer is no, you don't need to be on all of them. You should be on some of them. So it's that there's a big mix of things involved in getting going. If you're going to help heal people in whatever way, and I say, mind, body, spirit, business, budget, planet. A bookkeeper helps heal my business, right? My bank accounts. And at the same time, I also want a massage therapist to keep my body healed, right? And we're creating that bridge so that the healing professionals can also get healing for their business.
Well, in starting any organization or business, there are going to be surprises, both good and bad ones. What unexpected things happened as a result of creating the HCC? I hear you laughing there.
Oh gosh. So it's funny because when you start a business, all you can think about is growth. Oh, I want more customers. I want more clients. I want more patients. Which is true, by the way. That's what pays the bills. That's what allows you to spend your time doing what you love and what makes a difference in this world. But nobody told me as you grow, you'll get more voicemails, you'll get more emails, you'll have to upgrade your website. Eventually, you're going to want to hire professionals. So not only are you trying to pay yourself, but you're scraping together the money to pay for all these other things and these other people. So I think the first surprise was that I needed to make more money than just enough to pay my own bills. I had to make enough money to bring in professional support. I mean, yes, it's lovely to have volunteers and it's lovely to have interns, and at a certain point, if you're really doing things on a day-to-day basis, you need that dependable consistency of there's somebody showing up in addition to me on a day-to-day basis. So I think that was probably the first surprise is, oh, this is going to cost more money than I thought.
It always costs more money. Whatever you budget, it's always going to cost more money. I think that's rule number one about anything, whether it's your business or your household or whatever it is. But what about some of the good? I mean, were there things that surprised you in a good way when this sprung into life?
Yeah. So I think and this is an ongoing surprise and blessing. For me, the original seed had a lot to do with our online directory. So for me, I always thought that the online directory was kind of the cool thing that we were doing because we check references on our members, right? And at a certain point, we had a couple of members who I started talking to. What do you like best about your membership? And they were like, I really like the community. I get a lot of support when I go to my local chapter meetings. When I'm in the Facebook group, I can reach out to all sorts of people and get their thoughts, their insights, their ideas when I have a business building question. But the word I heard over and over again was community. And I think for me, that was the big surprise, was it actually isn't about what I initially thought it was going to be about.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Because I'll tell you, when I first met you, it was before I had started my dream work, and was doing something totally different. And when I did, become certified as a dream life coach, one of the first things I thought of doing was joining the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. And for me, it was the main reasons was community, was to get to know other people who were around me who were like-minded, not necessarily doing dream work, but were doing things that were compatible with dream work. And I tell you, that's one of the best things that I found being a member.
I mean, so this is our 9th anniversary this month, and we're at just about 67. We're almost at 70 chapters. I was about to say 67. We might as well be at 70. We just got a new chapter sign up in Maryland. I've been speaking with a couple of potential chapter presidents in Connecticut and Virginia. When you think about an organization like Rotary clubs or Toastmaster clubs, right, you understand the power of that network of live local chapters, and also the power of all of those members. And you're a solopreneur, an entrepreneur who maybe used to work full-time for a company and is now going out on your own, or maybe an entrepreneur who has spent a lot of time at home raising a family, and now your family is growing up and you get to take on a new project, which becomes a business, that you feel like a fish out of water. And the Holistic Chamber of Commerce comes to town, and all of a sudden you've found your bowl of water. So that's what it feels like to me, and I think that's what our community is a lot about.
Camille, in order to turn the idea of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce into reality, you had to take a leap of faith. Now, it sounds easy, just do it, but we know there's a lot more involved than that. So explain what it means for you to take a leap of faith and how you did that.
I think for me, taking a leap of faith is doing something where I can see my vision, I can see my dream, but I'm not quite sure of all the steps to bring that vision or dream to life. I just know the first few steps. Frankly, the dream for the Holistic Chamber of Commerce the initial leap of faith started before the HCC was even an idea, because I was being pushed out of my old corporate job. Not that anybody was trying to push me out, but it was no longer comfortable to be there. When you leave the office every day and you're just like, oh, why do I keep doing this? Oh, this doesn't work anymore. And you know that it's really time for you to evolve into something new and different. So that was the first leap of faith, was this old job isn't working for me anymore. And even though it is paying my bills and creating a comfortable lifestyle, I really need to move on. So the first leap of faith for me was jump out of the job. And I think by the time the Holistic Chamber of Commerce was an idea for me, I was so ready for what is a clear vision, what's going to be my next step. And so that was it. I just was like, I got to keep going because it's the way. I was kind of given this idea for, again, it was a local only Holistic Chamber of Commerce, but it grew. When we talk about the law of attraction, what are you attracting? Like right away, we were attracting people who were coming to the first meetings. And when we started saying, sign up for your membership, people started signing up. So that leap of faith started pulling me forward. Here's your vision, and we're going to start feeding it, because we were attracting right off the bat.
When you started into this and just getting it all off the ground, did you ever have any fears? And if so, how did you get over them?
So fear, I would love to say I over all of my fears, but no, fears come up on a regular basis. I think some of the early fears were things like, for this to work, we have to charge for it. And are people going to pay me for membership in something that they've never heard of before? And frankly, in the beginning, and I didn't know this when I started this, I knew that mainstream consumers were going to have a lot of questions about holistic health and wellness, because a lot of them have never tried what we're advocating. But I didn't realize that a lot of holistic practitioners were going to say things like, well, I'm not really in business. So then the fear became, well, if my potential members don't think they're in business, are they going to actually sign up? And what I found was that it's really, a lot of it's all around communication, right? So as I find better ways to communicate who we are and what we're doing, it makes it easier for me to get out of the fear, because people start signing up, right? Now I don't have to cold call people. They call me, or they come to the website, or they email, or they go to a meeting somewhere.
What's next? What's coming up for the Holistic Chamber of Commerce?
The thing that I have just started working on, as I mentioned, this is our 9th anniversary, which means October 2020. Yes, that's 10/20/20 is our 10th anniversary. And so I think really what's next for the HCC is going to be putting together a grand celebration and party retreat, where we really bring members together from all over the place. I think the other thing that is really already in the works is we've been on Facebook, we've been on LinkedIn, we have a couple of other social media profiles, but we're starting to put more out on YouTube, because a lot of people really are on YouTube and want that connection, right? YouTube gives us a connection to whoever the person is on the other side of the screen. And we want to be there representing all of our members, representing what it means to be holistic, and giving people that kind of that personal introduction to, how do I step on this bridge from where I am to where I'm going? And what are some ideas for me to get from here to there?
Okay, well, how can people learn more about the Holistic Chamber of Commerce and about you?
Well, you are all invited to what I call the longest domain name in the world, holisticchamberofcommerce.com. Our main office line is 310-490-6862. And those are the two best ways to reach us. If you are on Facebook, you can look me up, Camille Leon. If you are on LinkedIn, also look me up, because I'm there as well. Oh, and did I just mention YouTube? Because we are also on YouTube, youtube.com/holisticCC. And those are the best ways to get connected with me and with us. And we keep expanding, because the more the merrier, the bigger the better.
We've been speaking with Camille Leon, the founder of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. We'll be right back with our next guest. We talk a lot about dreams on this show, but I don't often focus on what it means to be living your dream life. For me, that means someone who embraces life and is fully self-expressed. My guest today is one of these people. Joan Gelfand is a poet and author whose reviews, stories, and poetry have appeared in over 100 national and international magazines. Her books include Here and There and The Long Blue Room, among others. Welcome to the Dream Power Show, Joan.
Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Glad to be here.
Great. So, Joan, you're a movie star now.
An accidental. You know when people say an accidental? Yes, an accidental.
Okay. What I mean by that is that your poem, The Ferlinghetti School of Poetics, was made into a short film by Dana Walden and is now a big hit on the festival circuit. So why don't you tell us about it?
So, as you've said, I'm a working poet. I've been a working poet since, many years, since really my high school and college days. And I started to publish and get very, very serious about my poetry. And I think I was on my second book. I was working on my second book. And I had a series of dreams about Lawrence Ferlinghetti. The first one was, as it says in the poem, I was just in North Beach, where he has his famous City Lights bookstore. And then there was another one, and this was like months later, where I was telling a small child, and this is also in the poem, you gotta go to the Ferlinghetti School. It's totally rad and completely cool. And that line is in the poem. So that was a dream. So now I'm starting to think, what's going on with Lawrence Ferlinghetti, right? The third one, I'm in a movie theater. And after the third one, oh, I didn't even think about that. I'm in a movie theater and the poem gets made into a movie. Debbie, I never thought about that. Okay, so in the third one, I'm in a movie theater. Here comes Lawrence Ferlinghetti. So after that, I said, okay, I have to craft, I'm a poet and I use my dreams. I have many poems that have come from dreams. This one turned out to be kind of epic. People resonated with it so deeply. It won a mayor's award from the city of San Francisco. It was published about 6 times at least, and won in a French journal where it won an award. I mean, it just really made a hit. And so Kelly Sullivan Walden and I were hosting a monthly radio show called Dreams to Art. And what we did is we would interview artists that were using their dreams or had used their dreams to inform whatever their art practice was. Well, on one of those shows, Kelly asked me to read the Ferlinghetti poem, and her husband heard it. And he said, we got to make a movie out of this poem. And I was hesitant because he wanted me to be in it. That was not my idea of fun. I don't know how you feel about being in public in that way. Anyway, I went to LA. We did the whole thing. He had a studio with a green screen. We went to Santa Cruz to kind of be a facsimile of Coney Island, which is in the dream. And Dana and Kelly came to San Francisco, to North Beach, where some of the poem took place. Well, he really made some really fabulous footage, and he's an amazing filmmaker, as you know, very talented. So we submitted, and this is like maybe well over 3 years ago, probably 4 summers ago. We submitted, and it immediately gets into this poetry, this International Poetry Film Festival. Well, of course, that's a great place for it to be. And I think it got into maybe one other film festival, and it showed at the Beat Museum, and we put it up on YouTube, and it got a lot of hits on YouTube. All of a sudden, 3 years later, now you also know I coach writers, so I always tell them this story because it's so interesting about how time has no bearing on whether your work will be successful. 3 years later, I get a email from the Hollywood International Film Festival. I had applied to them 3 years ago. We want your film. Literally, it was like dominoes. The London Film Festival, Austria, Rome, Cannes, I can't even tell you, there's 9 of them altogether. Malta. So Dana and I start to go, what's happening here? Well, of course, it was Lawrence Ferlinghetti's 100th birthday. We didn't make the film for that reason, but of course, the film festivals who want to appear erudite, now they have a film made by a poet that celebrates Lawrence, that they can say is for Lawrence Ferlinghetti's 100th birthday.
Ideas for the poem came from your dreams, and that a lot of your poems come to you through your dreams. Do you intentionally ask for your dreams to create the poems, or how do they happen?
Never. I have never asked for a poem in a dream. I just have had probably 15, 20 experiences where I wake up and I have imagery that is so strong that I know it has to be a poem. And as I told Kelly when we were working on our show, and we've also given talks on this topic of dreams to art. We're thinking of writing a book on this because it's so interesting. On your topic of dreams, what I think is so interesting about this is that I think when you use something that comes from that dream world in the physical world, it has a potency that people resonate with. I have to say that those are some of my poems that people feel most strongly about, the poems that came from dreams. And I think it's because it's this gift from our dream life, from our subconscious, from the beyond, from another world. I mean, I'll let you talk about it, but.
Well, can you give me an example of another one of your poems that come from a dream?
I have a poem in my first book called Burial. Debbie, this dream was so visual. I literally woke up, wrote it down. That was it. I don't think I ever changed it. It was a dream about being buried, and that I had no fear, and that an angel chanted. And I had to write about that. So that's a short but very potent poem. And that's the last poem in my first book, which is called Seeking Center.
So valuable. The dream world is so valuable to us when we pay attention to it. It gives us so many gifts. For you, it's the gift of poetry.
I've seen the Buddha and the Dalai Lama, and had all kinds of very encouraging dreams and things that have really helped me work out problems. I've always been an active dreamer, since childhood, actually. But as I became a teenager and older, I start to write down. And of course, now knowing Kelly and all you guys, I take them so seriously and I analyze them. But with poetry, you don't really have to analyze them. You just take the imagery. Yeah.
And you just work with it. Absolutely.
You work with it. Yeah.
So what kind of advice do you have for people who have their dreams and want to make them into art? How do they start?
What we talk about in our workshops, Kelly and I gave a really great workshop at the International Association for the Study of Dreams. We're looking to do the workshop around. What we tell people is, you've got this raw imagery, but you have to make it work as a piece of art. It's kind of like James Cameron had, apparently, the movie Avatar came to him all in a dream. But it's not just like bugs on a page, it's art. There's color, there's energy, there's music. It's the same thing with a poem. You have the raw material. Like, okay, I just told you about that dream Burial. here's an image, I'm being buried and an angel chanted, but I had to create some drama in a poem, right? I had to create a narrative arc. And it's the same thing for people working, trying to take those raw images. You still have to use artistic principles. If it's film, you're in a narrative, right? If you're in a poem, you want to use language in a creative way. You don't want to just plop the image down in the middle of the page and say, oh, it was a dream, so I guess now it's a poem. No, you still have to use the basic principles of that creative discipline. If it's a piece of music, maybe you can transcribe it exactly. I've had dreams about music, but I don't know how to transcribe, so there it goes. But if a musician had a piece of music, Paul McCartney got poems, songs from dreams. Well, he transcribed them. But I would say my biggest piece of advice is know what discipline you're working in. If you're working as a writer, then you have to use some creative writing principles. If you're working as a filmmaker, you're going to have to use some, whatever those creative, I'm not a filmmaker, I don't know. But, whatever those creative principles are, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And no, it's so true that, dreams do give you insights and inspiration. Unless you're very lucky or fortunate to have something totally downloaded to you in your dream, you still have to do the work. You still have to apply what you've got.
Exactly. These three dreams.
It's
Totally. These three dreams, I could have forgotten about them. Right. But after the third one, I said, I think I'm getting a strong message here. Right? Like something's happening. Yeah.
I also understand that you've written a novel that's about to come out. Why don't you tell us about that?
Well, this novel has had an epic life. I started it a long time ago. It takes place in a Silicon Valley startup. Of course, by the time it comes out, people may be so disgusted with Silicon Valley, but I'm trying to time it at a time when there may be some interest. And it's a lot about danger and risk and socioeconomic opportunities and women in tech and a lot of metaphors about, how games inform our life. The startup is involved with extreme sports, which has always drawn my attention. I've always been fascinated by people who engage in, surfing, skateboarding, snowboarding, skiing, all of that. So, base jumping. So yeah, so it'll be interesting. I have a publisher. It's scheduled for late February, and we'll see what happens.
How can people find out more about you and about your work?
My website is easy to find. It's just joangelfand.com. I also happen to be the only Joan Gelfand in this country who is engaged in a literary life. I think there's two other Joan Gelfands, but they don't live in San Francisco. My website talks about my coaching. I do some travel writing. It shows the movie. This little poetry movie is on there. And about the new book, about the writing book and all my other books. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Debbie.
Oh, well, thank you, Joan, for being with us. We've been talking with poet Joan Gelfand about the creative experience. I'm Debbie Spector-Weissman, and I hope you've enjoyed the program. Until next time, sweet dreams, everybody.